Committee, oops, to order. Oh, that's just you starting to. Hang on here. All right. Roll call, please.
Committee member Hildebrand,
Here.
committee member Hicks, committee member Henry,
Here.
committee member Cutler,
Here.
trustee Thuzius,
Here.
and President Langfeld.
Here. All right, public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Finance Advisory Enhancement Committee. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee encourages input from residents and may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. All right, do we have anybody registered? Or
There's
wanting
not
to?
anybody registered. The only person on Zoom is Michael. I don't know if he has anything
Okay.
to share.
All right, we will go to general business, discussion and possible approval of the September 1st, 2021 Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. So moved. Number 2, discussion of the 2023 capital improvement plan items. So what we'll go through tonight is we'll go through the 2023 and we'll pull off the ones that we think we may want to look at. So let's just start at the top. The west side stormwater drain system. I quite frankly think it's almost extremely unlikely that that's going to occur next year. I don't think we should waste any time because that has changed numerous times over the last 3 years.
When you say it won't be in the budget, you think, for next year's cap or 2023 budget? Is that what you're saying, or is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot that needs to happen and that project will not go unless certain things happen.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it happening in 2023.
Yeah, I was wondering though, Jay, if there's something that will, for the similar locations and issues or planning, if there's something that might take its place that needs to be, set in here, we leave the space there, but maybe rename it and give it a different amount as needed.
Well, I think, there's so many pieces that need to fall in, and actually right now, the latest plan isn't even looking to use that 42-inch pipe anymore.
Yeah, I know that latest plan though may need to be something else in exchange of this drainage system, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just.
I just don't know if our group, what we would be working on this, that's all.
Okay. Sounds fair.
You're right, the place mark is probably in the future will be named something, well, maybe have the same name, but clearly the description will be different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where does this, just ask where, I've been around a long time, but I don't ever seen that to be a major issue. And if you're going back to 2018, you have to throw that out. I mean, that's an anomaly that happened that may happen again, but I don't know, the whole village got flooded. And I'm trying to figure out the $1 million project because the price is going to keep going up, right?
well, it might, yeah, it's probably gonna go up, but it's not, it's tied to things different than that. It's not just what happened in 2018.
Okay.
It's part of a bigger plan of trying to develop that whole area and dealing with even on a 100-year storm.
Okay. I see it's doing other things in the north end of town that's going to control some of if that will filter down through as a project as well. But I'm not sure. It just seems like a lot of money for an intersection. But I guess if there's some plan to tear things down or redevelop everything between 14 and Park Street to the creek, I guess that makes sense then, but is that a developer's cost or taxpayers' cost? I'm not sure.
Right, there's so much to play in this. It's just not worth the time right now until there's more concrete. And if you remember, this was originally part of the $5 million grant we were writing. So it just, I just don't think it's worth spending time on.
Okay, okay.
All right, Village Hall, Police Department replacement. I think this is something that needs to be more defined, but I do think it wouldn't hurt for us to at least put this on our list. I'm not sure we can move right now on it, but it wouldn't surprise me in the middle to latter part of 2022 that we might want to take a look at it. So I clearly think this is one we should put on the list. Do we need to assign people right now? My recommendation would be no.
Agree on both those accounts, Jay,
Okay.
from my end.
And guys, is Kevin and I just have a little bit more inside information on some of these things that were talked about in closed session, so we can't go into great detail, but there's no sense wasting people's valuable time on things that are probably farther down the road. So I'd like to keep this one on the list, but let's, I don't think we need to jump on it right away. All right, the next one is Badger Books. This is, Bobby, you're the clerk, so you probably have a lot more information on this one.
Yeah, it's just something I learned about in a training that I took this year. So it's an electronic. So when voters come to check in, instead of walking up to, the two poll people with the paper book and stating their name and address, and the people flipping through the book and you signing your name in the book and then getting a number and walking to the ballot table, you go up to like a kiosk and there'll be one person manning each station. And so you like look the voter up on the, like, electronically, and then if they're not in there, you can register them right on the kiosk. And then it prints out, there's like a little computer, like a receipt tape type thing that prints them out a number. So it's just obviously electronic versus everything being paper, and it's just kind of a handier thing.
I have family who worked in Middleton with these, and it worked much smoother because you can get things more up to date quicker.
And I think it helps with the absentee ballot processing too,
It
from what I
really did
understand.
for that. The only downside is, okay, let's say this politely, some of the poll workers were uncomfortable using that level of technology. So that may be a shift issue, but from everything they told me about it, it is a very great thing to do, especially since we have only one polling place. And there have been many times during big elections that people have been so far out the door, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
each station is A through Z. So, you don't have to stand in a line for here. It's just whichever one's open first you go to.
Yeah.
Right. But is there a role do you see in the finance? I mean, like, are there multiple vendors in these machines, or?
Nope, I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure
Yeah,
you
this is
just
the
buy
one-
what they tell you to.
I know that the Wisconsin Elections Commission is looking into other companies to service this.
Okay,
So that's why I put it out a couple of years, because I know that they were looking at, because the equipment that they currently have is a little bulky, not really bulky, but they were hoping to get more of like a tablet type thing.
oh, okay,
And then they thought the cost would go down. And I also did 2023 because it's a short, there's fewer elections.
Yeah,
But that way it's in place before the next presidential one. It'll give, poll workers a good opportunity to get trained on it and get some elections under their belt with it. And
okay. Okay, I guess, is there a role you see us playing in this at all? Seems either a yes or no type thing.
I mean, I can be the one that researches it. I don't know that the committee really needs to. If someone's interested in it and wants to, like, that's fine.
All right.
I just wonder if there aren't currently or will be grants or other funding sources for these items as well.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, no, I'll definitely keep my eyes open.
All right,
and-
so let's put this one on the list too. It seems like there's enough out there that we should be have options of looking into. All right. So then the next one is the County Highway P Market Street multi-use trail construction. And I think this is the one we received the grant already, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
For the county. So is there really any other work to be done on this? And I think, doesn't this fall under more Parks and Rec Committee?
Yeah, I think Mike will be doing a lot of work on that. Our committee.
So are other people comfortable with just letting Parks and Rec run with it and then the board, or?
Yeah, I think that seems like the right path forward.
Okay, so we won't put that on the list. The electric utility vehicle, this one I think we should definitely put on the list.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused on what it is and exactly how it's going to be used.
This, Jay, I can have a little background on this.
Okay,
Maybe Jed does too, on Park and Rec, but this goes back quite a while. The department has a van, I think it says maroon van. I thought it was white, but maroon van that they use to haul around up to, I think it's 11 or 10 or 11 kids from place to place, from parks. This would replace that van. I don't know, frankly, I don't know if that's still happening during the pandemic here, but historically it had been. Electric vehicle would be obviously preferred for a ton of reasons, and the van doesn't really leave cross planes, so you don't need anything that travels very far.
Yeah, to my knowledge, the only thing it currently is used for is Becky drives it to read the water meters once a month. I don't know how much the Parks and Rec department actually uses it. I don't see them driving
Well-
it ever, but I'm not.
can we keep this one for sure on the list then? Because I think this definitely is one of those that we could look at to see what really is the need and the best option for. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah, especially since electric vehicles are rapidly changing. I mean, Ford is just announced a whole lot of more ecologically sound vehicles.
And this looks like, we should probably need clarification what it is and what it looks like, because Polaris leads me to believe it's more of a ATV or an all-terrain vehicle.
No, it's not. It's like, it looks like a box almost with side doors that you can either take off or leave on, and it's kind of like it looks like a fancy golf cart.
Right. So is it winter? Can it be used in the winter? I don't know. Those are just, it's probably something to
No.
be looked into. Yeah.
I think you can use it in the winter, but the plan would be to use it for summer camp and some other after school issues. But I don't think they use. Yeah, here it says summer camp, commuter, and utility vehicle. So I think you can use it in the winter. I just don't think that's their plan.
Okay.
It's a
Well,
people haul.
I think that one, the Badger books and this one, I think will be higher on the list. Probably start working on it so we have something by August or September. All right. The pool feasibility study / planning.
You skip Melody Acres.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I guess that one, I don't know if you guys want it. This seems to me again one that's probably more for Parks and Rec. I'm not sure what role we would play in on that. Do people have any ideas?
The
I
thing
just
is,
don't want to get in someone else's lane.
right, but I think it's also the cost, isn't that kind of what our, I know we spent 130,000 on this one down here and it's become quite a attraction, but how much do we spend on, and I don't know if everybody knows the full dollar amount that was spent in that park, but it
I
starts
do.
to loom in with financing or borrowing that much money for that type of stuff. And I'm not saying it's not needed. I just think we should look at it and say, is 50,000 too much or not enough?
Well, yeah, but see, that's where I think we get crossing the lane of, isn't that more the board's uh job? I would think if this was something we'd look at
Yep.
different options, what would be, but again, I think we're crossing into Parks and Rec. Now, are there grants maybe out there, or is there recouped playground, reconditioned playground that's cheap? You know, those are the things I think we would be looking at, how it's designed and what they want in the parks. I think that's got to stay in Parks and Rec. And the amount that's going to be spent, I think, is a board decision. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in between those two that we could work on.
Yeah, I have a thought, Jay.
Okay.
Because this is an issue not just at Melody Acres, but in other parts of the village where we don't have parks or where parks need to be updated. And I wonder just about, you know, when a new subdivision goes in, oftentimes, not always, right, Jed? There's money put aside for parks, and those parks are built at that time. But if that doesn't happen, or if that happens and then 20 years later, 30 years later, it needs to be updated, there is no plan for that except to do this capital improvement. So I guess I'm wondering if there isn't another funding mechanism out there that would help
Oh,
with this
okay.
process.
All
And
right.
that is something that we could look at.
Right. So you're looking at something a little bit more general than Melody Acres, just playground equipment in general.
Playground improvement fund, village-wide, something along that line. Yeah,
Okay.
Or just park improvement fund, because there's also the
sure.
large diamond update and
Yeah,
Okay.
Doesn't that just
I
fit
think
into,
that's a,
but doesn't that just fit into the parks budget? I mean, do they not budget for the updates and
well, they do, but I think what I'm hearing for Kevin is it's kind of this hit and miss. There's no solid policy, or every time we put in a new park, what is the plan to replace it in 20 years? So I'm thinking what, at least I'm hearing from Kevin is there something this group can look to make it where we are able to plan for replacement so it doesn't come out as a big lump sum at some point in 20 years? Is that kind of what you're looking at, talking about, Kevin, as one of the
yeah,
things?
it's exactly it, Jay. But what Jed's saying, and maybe there is a funding source for it. I just don't know about it. And so maybe if there is, maybe we should just have, maybe Mike could come to the next meeting and present, or to a meeting in the future and present on it, because I think we have the Bear Park Improvement Fund. There's another park fund. There was for a while we had the big one. I think that we spent most of that 130 came out of the big park fund, I think. Maybe a summary to this group about the various different park funds out there. And Mike might say, you know what, there's not a need, or he might have another idea. So maybe
Yeah.
if either bring him in here or have a side conversation and bring the report back here.
yeah,
Yeah.
because most of these say borrowing. So if we're hoping to cut down on borrowing, I mean,
Right.
And Mike,
Right.
Mike already might have in mind here that the whole cost is 100,000, but he only wants to borrow 50, and the other 50 is coming from this fund. I just don't know. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, looking at this with a bigger lens, I think might actually help parks and well, everybody.
Right. No, I agree. I think you found a niche that clearly this committee could fit into. I think that's an excellent idea. And I think that's a good idea because, like, I know some of those improvement funds, like the one for the pool in Bear Park, the one from the pool, every membership for swim team, so much goes into that. Bear Park, it used to be all the baseball players, part of their fees would go into that.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
what I
was-
recall.
And that would offset some of these costs.
Yeah, if the baseball diamond needs updating and their fees have been going to it, how much is it gonna cost if they still need to borrow $10,000?
Well, if you look at what they have on this list, it's gonna be far more than 10,000. You're looking just for
Yeah.
bleachers, we're at like 12,000 right now.
Personally, anything made out of metal, I would
Yeah,
put on pause for X amount of time.
yeah, I'm just saying, I think, I think Kevin's hit it. Some of that
Mhm.
might be what, there's a match of something coming from somewhere else possibly. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the parks idea of us looking into that is a smart move, because I think there should be a minimum of policy or procedure when it comes to park improvements. Everybody good? Everybody good with that? So I'll talk to Mike and we'll see what meeting would work for him, and he can maybe give us an overview on how the finances all work on it. All right.
Yeah, I was just wondering, yeah, Jay, that's a good, we can bring Mike in, or I don't know if Jed maybe wants to tackle that first at a park meeting and then come in, Jed. I mean, I'm looking to you for some thoughts on that process.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine either way. I mean, the stuff that's been brought up here, I haven't even heard about in a parks meeting yet. So,
Okay,
for us to think about tackling these things, and the other part of it is, I mean, some of the stuff that we're sending out of parks isn't going anywhere either. So, I would say it's probably best to chat with, I can keep an eye on this stuff, and if it comes up, then I can bring it back, or I'm
Okay.
open to whatever you guys want to do.
okay, well then maybe we'll invite Mike and I'll give him a little primer, Jay, if you want, or if you want to take it, that's fine.
All right, why don't you go ahead and give him a jingle
Okay.
then? So can we throw all the stuff that would be related to parks, and that would include the pool and everything?
I think we should put the pool separate because, I mean, finding some community fundraising and stuff, that's gonna be a huge cost to the village. And an improvement for that everyone will use. So I'd like to see some more looking at what that one separate since it's gonna be so big.
Well, this one is what they're putting in 2023 is just a feasibility study.
Okay.
It's not the actual construction of the pool.
Um,
But like I say, I just think the only reason I say that is because I know the pool also has a couple separate accounts tied to it.
okay, then yeah, sure, toss it all together.
Yeah, okay. I guess, do you see Scenic Valley Park in that same, because that's more of a new one than
Yeah, that one will be using developer,
yeah, that's from the
impact
money
fees or
they're,
whatever they're called. Yeah.
yeah, park impact fee. Okay, all right.
Well, when Mike presents this, I mean, I would just, we'd probably all gain a little bit just by learning that part of the process as well, so.
Yep,
But yeah, I think, yeah, wait for Mike.
okay. So then we are to the tractor mounted snow blower.
Why don't we do the same thing and with putting all these different equipment in one group, talk to Jerry and go from there?
Well, because I can tell you there are some different ways. For example, that one I just mentioned, the snow blower, that's an actual purchase replacement. But if you drop down to the skid steer, that's where we have this process that every 2 years we trade in ours for a new one. And
Ah.
that's why it's only 14,000. You can't get a skid steer for 14,000 there. So and the reason I think we should look into that, but the reason is that it's under warranty, and once it gets after warranty, costs are so expensive and stuff that they feel instead of keeping it until it's no longer working and then buy new, this is a much better way of doing it. But I personally think we should that's one that we should look into, I think.
I agree.
But I think that's different than a outright purchase. The question on that one is that the best? Does that make the best financial sense to do the trading in every 2 years? Or does it make sense to purchase and then, I don't know.
I have a stupid question. What is a skid steer?
Like a bulldozer, that's what I.
Like a
I don't know
bobcat.
all the
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
like a little-
Is that borrowed money or levied, or I know we list capital borrowing levy fees.
They borrow that.
Yeah, I still get hung up on the fact that we borrow, sure, we're saving money because we're not doing it, but you're borrowing $14,000 on a 10-year note or a 20-year bond or whatever you do. And what do we end up paying for it? I mean, we need to weigh out the whole.
Right,
picture.
but technically, because I question that, I think it could fall under operate, but technically you're buying a machine that is easily have a 20-year life to it. Now we're choosing to turn it in after 2 years, but you're actually purchasing an item. I know what you're saying.
It sounds like we're basically leasing a vehicle every 2 years. And,
Well, I think
or
that-
flipping one.
I think it would fall in. It's not the paperwork isn't into a lease format. The paperwork is in an actual purchase. It just so happens the difference between what we're trading in and buying is 14,000.
And I guess where I would go with that is that we feel that's a good thing. We're doing it every 2 years because it's in our best interest. So then put it in as a line item as part of the actual budget. It's 7,000 a year. What are we paying on I know it's a small amount, but what was that all adds up when we borrow and keeps going to the debt level? Right? When's the last $14,000 going to be paid off?
Right. I think that's when we look at this, I think that's part of what you look at with this model. You're absolutely correct. How does that accumulate over 10, 20 years? So I think we need to do the numbers on this one. And part of doing the numbers is exactly what you're talking about. But I agree with Deb. I think we could probably look at the snow blower, the lift, which again, I'm a little confused on that because I thought last year or the year before we put money in for a lift, 30,000, but and then the truck and everything. I think we should combine those.
Well, I agree with me.
Yeah, I think the skid steer, just because of the uniqueness of that, I think that should be separate. What are other people's feeling?
I'm not sure there's much that this committee can do outside of this skid steer discussion. Sorry,
Okay,
I mean, unless there are funding mechanisms that I don't know about again. And like there are with, parks where you're getting income from various means. I just don't know.
well, the only one I would throw is that aerial lift. I thought we went through that whole, remember when we were talking about, because we only use it, what was it, 5 days a month or something
Well,
like
that's-
that?
There
Yeah,
is
that's
a
what it says up
comment
there.
here.
Jay, is that we did the bucket truck. We were going to purchase the bucket truck in 2020, didn't because of various reasons. And then he's
Right.
been renting equipment the last 2 years, this year and next year.
All right, well, I would be curious to know what the rental costs have been.
Well, then maybe there's another one to discuss.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'd like to know, I'm to compare rental versus purchasing. I don't know. I think we should look at that one. You know, the snow blower, I don't, you know, unless we can find a place cheaper than 16,000, they use it all the time. It's needed on Church Street and Main Street, so, you know,
I heard that the figure was like $1,000 each time they rented it. So yeah, where do you don't have the liability, you don't have the insurance, you don't have the wear and tear, you use it, you take it back. It may be worth something that they say renting versus buying.
all right, let's take a look at the aerial, maybe do some numbers on that.
Yeah, I can pull the invoices. I know we rented it some lifts this year
Okay,
or something.
all right, so let's keep that one on there. I guess the other ones we'll just let sit, go through. Dane County KP Bridge, that, I'm not really sure why there's money. I'll be able to know. We're setting up a meeting that's gonna be built, but the county is, covering most of the costs. I'm not sure, what the related, well, I guess sidewalk and decorative concrete. I'm not really sure what that's all about. I guess I'd wait until, you know, it's a county project and we're having a meeting. I know they just sent something out asking to put together a meeting, so. The next one is the reconstruction of Brewery Road. I don't think there's much we can, do on that one. We're gonna have community meetings and that has a number of funding sources. I guess all of those, well. The only one is that last one, steel shelving unit replacement. That would be the only thing, and I guess the only thing, and it seems like they did it this year, they bought some used ones. And I know that they were probably a lot cheaper than new, for sure.
It also seems that putting on the end pieces is one of the really expensive parts, the pretty part, you
Oh.
know. So, because I was chatting with Chris the other day when I was apologizing for returning books that were due in February. Thank God they got rid of fines.
Yeah, they did. All right, does everybody agree with that rest of the list then?
Yeah. I don't see much there.
Okay, good. Very good. All right, I'll put that list together and then we'll send it out and maybe just think about which ones you might have an interest in. I don't think any of them are totally complex. I think the parks one could be the most time-consuming one. All right, number 3, I'm gonna apologize. There's nothing there. I just do not have enough time to work on that. And to be honest with you, I think the earliest I'll have something for you is the December meeting. I'm just piled up with reports I gotta write up for the October meeting. So I apologize. So we can just move on. Tim, you want to kind of give us a summary of what you found in dealing with sidewalk assessments?
Right, most of the communities, they just refer me directly to their ordinances online, but there's just usually a standard that when a piece of sidewalk or several pieces need to be replaced, the village or municipality has developed a standard as to the amount of the thickness of the concrete, how it has to be, the width and so forth to meet their village or municipal standards. So that's basically where it's at. And then they didn't really get into actually, I wasn't sure the actual format as to who pays for what. I know there are some that do assess for sidewalk repairs in front of your property if need be. And that's the reason why they allow them the option of doing it themselves or hiring their own contractor if they think they can get it done cheaper. Otherwise, new and existing sidewalk usually, or I'm sorry, new sidewalk usually went in as part of the development or some sort of special project the municipality has chosen to do. And some of those allow for, I know we used to do it years ago here in the village where curb and gutter would go in and you get assessed for your portion, but you get time to pay for it. The village would pay up front and then you would have an assessment on your property until it's paid back. So I'm not sure what we're looking for because of the lack of sidewalks, I would say, in the village that would fall under some of this, but
Well, did you talk to Jerry at all?
I did not get a chance to do that, no.
Okay. Well, I think where, why this I think is an important one to deal with now is that we're putting in lots of sidewalks. Every development is getting sidewalks. So in 10, 15, 20 years, this potentially could be a huge hit on the budget if we pay 100% like we're doing right now. So I think this is more proactive right now.
Right, okay.
And when I saw Brian's spreadsheet, I thought he sent us a spreadsheet, the engineer, on what communities were doing with certain costs. And I thought the majority of them had some type of assessment or the owner had, when I was looking, I thought we were one of the only ones that still paid 100% of everything.
Right, I believe that's correct. A lot of them, if you have a sidewalk in front of your place, you'll be assessed the replacement portion, the sections that be done. That, again, that's why they give you the option of saying, if Jerry came and said these 3 sections of sidewalk need to be replaced, your options to do it on your own at the village standards, or you hire a contractor that does the village standards, or you let the village contract it out and then they know it's done to their standards. It's usually kind of 3 options there, but you're right, the village doesn't pay the whole cost for replacement. It's usually the homeowner because that's who's benefiting from the question I have is if we're moving to 5 foot wide sidewalk, then, you know, is there an upgrade that somebody else pays for, or we don't, but that can all be worked out somewhere else down the road. But
Yeah, I guess the question is, does this group think we should put a report together to send to the board for consideration of having an ordinance where we do assess the owners of the sidewalk, at least a portion of the replacement cost?
I think we should, along with having something for areas such as my block that really need sidewalks, that at some point it will be discussed adding a sidewalk to it. As the community grows, we have more and more kids and families walking in the street.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, I can tell you, because we're going to be running into that right down the street from you on when we do Brewery Road.
yep,
But if you look, the problem with putting in sidewalks after homes are up, you're taking down some awful mature trees. You're potentially moving utility boxes.
oh yeah,
There's a huge cost. a huge
Yeah.
cost. So, and again, that I agree with you, but I think that would be 2 different issues. I think we could look at what are we looking at to place sidewalks in non-sidewalk developments right now versus replacement of sidewalk.
And I would agree that we need to have an ordinance or send something back to the board, making the homeowners responsible for a portion of that cost. I mean, obviously it's used by the public, but it also increases the value of their home and appearance. So whether it's 50% or 75%, and I don't know, we have that now. If somebody puts in a driveway, if they rip it out and put it back in, and who's it, or the apron between the curb and the sidewalk, who's responsible for that if it goes bad? And I think that's the homeowner.
Right.
It's-
Yeah, it's definitely, I think that's 100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
negotiating something or have something in there that makes the property owner responsible for a fraction of the cost or whatever percentage they come up with is a good idea, in my opinion.
Tim, what was Middleton's percentage? Are they 100%?
I'd have to look back at that chart. I don't know if that was on there, even Middleton's. I'd have to look back. I can get that for you.
Yeah,
'Cause I know-
Madison's 50%.
I know years ago, because I still have the rental property in Middleton, and years ago they when they did the assessment, I luckily got out of it because the sidewalk that they said was mine wasn't actually owned by me, it was owned by the county. I thought they were 100%. And so that was one of the things that I took up with Bill when we moved into our neighborhood. And it's kind of a side note to this, as these new developments go in, they did a really crappy job on the sidewalks in this neighborhood. And when they put the houses in, they beat to crap the sidewalks that they put in at the beginning. And I had a conversation with Bill and I said, listen, someday you guys are going to have to come back and replace these and you're going to be asking me to do it. And I said, you can't expect me to have a brand new house and sidewalks that are all beat up. These things are already cracking, and, they did end up coming in and replacing a whole bunch of them. But yeah, I mean, I was under the expectation that I was going to end up having to pay for that. And I think a lot of people probably do, maybe not. I don't know if they never dealt with it, but I was expecting it was going to be my cost. And so, I wanted to make sure that the bad sidewalk in front of my house was all replaced.
Yeah, I can, in your case, just like at others, on a new development, we don't sign off unless everything's done. So your sidewalk was probably replaced by the developer.
They were, yep.
Yep. Now, once they turn it over to us, now it becomes ours and falls under our policy. What are other people's feelings? Should we do a report on this and see what the board thinks?
Yeah, because it will become a bigger and bigger cost as time goes on, and with the winters being hot and cold and hot and cold, all the roads and sidewalks are getting beaten up a lot faster than they used to.
Yeah. All right. How
Yeah.
about this? I will give Jerry a call, try to get some background so we have background for the report. And then Tim, you and I can put the report together. It shouldn't be a very long one. It should
No. I
be.
just think
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
when we go a second step, and as you said about actual more thorough policy. So I look at the Gills Way, the subdivision out there, and the developer was required to put in concrete sidewalk, but then we have a blacktop path that goes from Gills Way to Tilda, then down over the Bourbon, and that sidewalk. And we did the same thing in Scenic Ridge. So that I assume is the villages, but is there a standard that we're supposed to be following that, or why is it the village? I'm confused why that isn't all sidewalk, but concrete sidewalk versus a paved pathway.
Well, I think if we declare it, I don't know a better word, as a multi-use path, then it's blacktop. If it's declared sidewalk, then we would use concrete. So
Okay.
so that path that you're actually talking about is what we got the grant for. And that will expand it, my understanding, 10 feet, it'll be a 10 feet wide blacktop path, kind of like goes through Xander Park.
Okay.
It's the same thing over at our neighborhood. All the houses have sidewalks, and then to the side of me over here that runs along the vacant lot, it's all the blacktop path.
Yeah.
So I only bring that up is you mentioned something about two different reports. One is we should address the sidewalk charge to people for replacement,
Yep.
A recommendation. And then is there a second part of that as you were saying about maybe additional sidewalks in additional neighborhoods, but
Well, yeah, but what I was the second one was more towards Deb, where you have neighborhoods like my house doesn't have sidewalk. What is our do we have an interest in what would be the policy of placing a sidewalk where there isn't one
Right,
in an already developed area?
yeah,
That's what I think Deb was getting at.
right, right.
And that's going to be interesting because I'm going to be interested to see how that Brewery Road discussion goes. Because that'll be the first one where we're actually will be putting it on the table when we do that road of putting a sidewalk in. Or
You're
some type
gonna
of,
go with what the neighborhood wants or what is
No.
best for the community?
it's what's best for the community, but I think when you throw that into what's best for the community, you also have to tie in what the cost is gonna be.
Mhm.
And, we have setbacks, right, on this?
Right.
Is it fair to have a setback and then we come in and put a sidewalk within that setback area? That, I don't think, I mean, would you have 25 feet from your house to the curb and now you lose basically half of that and have a sidewalk only 13 feet from your doorstep? Is that fair?
So,
Is that how it works, or is it the road right away?
yeah,
So,
that's not necessarily how it works, Jay, especially in that area. There's that road is already extra wide. So I don't think we need to get into that discussion here today on that particular issue.
Well, no, I was just throwing it as an example.
Yeah, people have easements and they're not really familiar with what
Yes,
they own but really don't own. That came up with the sidewalk on Highway P and everyone got upset about that.
Right. It's not it's a tricky thing. And
Yeah.
it should be not tied to this other because we'll get bogged down on it. I don't have a problem looking into it, but it's very complex, especially in this village.
Tim, as part of your research, can you get just a rough idea of what 1 square of sidewalk costs? Just so like if we know we have to replace it, like what kind of number that is in today's money?
Yeah, that should be really, we can find that pretty easy. At least Madison posts all that.
well, and I think Jerry has some scheduled to be sidewalk work actually be done in the village.
Oh.
So we can actually pull it from those numbers. I mean, his problem right now, is my understanding, is there's no contractors available to do it. He did find one that may be able to help the village this area for what has to happen, but that will give us a more accurate price of.
Yep. Yeah, when I talk to Jerry, I'll try to get background and see if he has those kind of numbers. And I'm sure he has them in the past because the village has paid for them. And I know we do replacements. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, we'll go to number 5, discussion regarding streetlight billing and ownership. So Michael has done a lot of heavy lifting and legwork on this. And we're at a point where we really need to pull everything together in a report. And what a lot of this is going to be spreadsheets. There's no doubt about it. And to give you the summary is that you pay a different price if you own the light or you don't. And it appears that we're paying for lights that we believe are ours, but MG is billing as if they were theirs. So this would require us to basically do a spreadsheet. One part of it would be a spreadsheet listing all the lights that we believe are ours, that we are paying as if they were MG&Es. And then the other part would be collecting the documentation that we would be feeling shows that we have the ownership. And most of those are looking back at developer agreements where they buy the lights and then turn them over to us. So that's kind of, it's substantial savings, just so you know. I mean, it could be thousands of dollars savings on this. And the other thing that he has found out, if we can prove this and MG&E agrees, they will pay us for the amount that we've paid in for the last 6 years. So that, again, could be tens of thousands of dollars that we could bring into the village on that. So I'd like to keep him, this is almost kind of like a subgroup. I'd like him to obviously be involved because he's got a lot of the data, but there will be things that, and I was thinking, is Molly on right now? No. I was gonna probably try to tap her because she is extremely good with Excel. And it seems like this would be a perfect fit for her. We give her the information and she does a spreadsheet. And then the rest, we just have to put together copies of the developer agreements and then get a true count on what's actually out there.
If she can't do it, I'm also really good at Excel.
Oh, okay. And you're interested in doing it?
Sure, I love playing with Excel. It's fun.
All right. Well, I don't know how much fun you're gonna have. This is pretty much just throwing in hundreds of streetlights,
Yeah.
at where they're at and then tied to what agreement they fall under. So I don't know, Michael, do you want to add anything else that you would see if you can hear us?
You covered it pretty well. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of what you just said basically done. And I kind of sent you emails a little bit with those updated, some little bit of spreadsheets. I found pretty much all the developers agreements except for 2 developments when I was doing the documents search at the hall. Those 2 I need to find, and I have 2 areas that are maybes right now. I don't know about the lights on Brewery Road, and I don't know about the Elmwood Woodside Drive neighborhood. Those are like big question marks right now where the research hasn't been done. I sent an email to Jerry about Brewery Road or Bourbon Road, and he really didn't say if he knew who bought those. He told me when they went in, but how they were paid for wasn't answered in the email.
Was it bourbon or brewery you're talking about?
It's Bourbon, because
Bourbon.
Bourbon was completed. His email said in 96, but he didn't answer. One section was completed in 96. The West End, like 7 lights, I think, went in when the Ludden Drive neighborhood went in. I think it was part of that, but the documentation didn't tell me exactly that those lights were part of that development when I was doing my document search.
All right.
Yeah, so it's like, but a lot of the other neighborhoods are pretty solid. I mean, except for I'm missing 2 other neighborhoods that Bill didn't bring up the documents for when I did the search on them, but I'm sure they're in Village Hall. I just have to ask him for it.
Okay, and do you do you have a list of what lights MG&E thinks are theirs then? Or do you have a
Yeah.
list of?
Yeah, I've asked them for they gave me a listing of or actually they just gave me a listing of the lights that the village owns because it's much shorter than the lights that they own. It was like the other way. It's really what it was. So I know which lights they think we own, and all the other ones they claim they own. And it's not just the lights, it's actually the pole and the light. I mean, it's the
Right.
whole thing.
All right, and then I guess the third question would be, do you have the documentation on what expenses were taken on if we have ownership?
That is going to be, see, and that's the real, yeah, I mean, I know, well, what I need to do is figure out like how much a pole exactly costs, but I know about a LED light fixture, just a good estimate is $500. Probably $600 to put a fixture up, and or $600 total, $100 labor, 500 fixture. Bill Chang was wanting, or had said something about bringing it to this committee because he was hesitant that if we tell MG&E that we own all these lights and they say, okay, they're now all yours and the money exchanges hands. Now, if something starts happening to these lights, the village now starts to become financially liable for it, and whether or not the village should take on that financial liability.
Well, yeah, that's,
Like that was his like concern, like, oh no. But in all my years of living here, I haven't seen a street pole fail unless a car drives into it. And fixtures tend to last a long time. The gray area becomes how long do these new LED fixtures last, because it's a new technology. Whereas the old high pressure sodium fixtures, some of these have been up for 30 years.
right, but I think what he's looking at is the cost benefit. So
Well,
that's why
yeah,
we have, there definitely has to be a calculation on how much we save, how many months of savings to equal the cost of $500.
Well, sure. And yeah, I mean, I could with doing that in a spreadsheet's easy. If MG&E puts up a LED fixture, they're going to charge us $11.50 a month. Let's call that 12. That's $150 a year. A $600 fixture, your return on investment is 4 years is what it is. If we lease an LED fixture from MG&E versus buying one for $600, the return is 4 years on it. And that's just because I know what their current pricing is.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, is everybody good? I can work with Deb and Michael on this, and then we can bring back a draft report. Or is there anyone else that would like to be involved in this? All right. So Michael, I guess, Deb and I will work with you. Maybe we can just get a meeting together and just kind of figure out how we want it to look on the spreadsheet and what we have to put in the report. I think this is one that is can somewhat stay simple.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be, I mean, we'll just look at it and just be, do we want to assume this risk of ownership and, look at what the return on investment would be? Should one of these fixtures fail, we have to replace it. It's pretty straightforward.
Right. All right.
Did you, Michael, did you look into the additional, I think we mentioned this once before, the additional streetlights that have been added when a development went in and there may have been poles already there, about removing any of them, or is this just what we're paying?
This is just what we're paying in terms of pole removal. That's something we can look at if we feel there's redundancy later on, because removing a pole, that's going to save us money. I mean, every month for every street light, even if we own it, we're paying $4.29 a month just in maintenance and the distribution charge on it, like to get the electricity there and for MG&E to maintain it. Every street light costs a minimum of $4.29 a month.
How many do we have in the village?
MG&E says we have 322, but I did a quick audit where I rode my bike around the village and made a spreadsheet, my own audit, and I came up with 306. I want to redo it. So I did it just one time, but I think that they're billing us for about 16 streetlights that don't exist in the village anymore. And I think that my best guess is those are the 16 streetlights that were removed from Main Street, Highway 14 during the 2015, and they never stopped billing us for them.
Oh,
Based on the wattages of their detailed summary, because they say we have 11 250 and 200 watt bulbs in the village, and I can only find one of those, and it's the one when you're coming in from the west side down Highway 14 out by Kelcher's Implement. There's a 25 watt bulb out there. There are none others, and I think that those other 25s and 20s were used on Main Street, those other 10 and assorted ones, that's my guess, because that's where I found the 125 was on Main Street, and I bet you they took 16 of them out.
All right, well,
So
that's good. I think we'll definitely look at this because this to me seems like definitely a plus.
So I just
Well-
went down another rabbit trail here with that. Just remember where this all goes. If we're gonna own them all, yes, we'll get a windfall back, but we'll have to buy things, including a bucket truck to lift the guys up to replace the bulbs when they go bad, or we put new ones in the storage of bulbs and stuff. So it's not, I get where it's coming from, the benefit of the cost savings, but we also have to look at the long-term benefits of that as well.
well,
or
sure,
cost.
but can I address that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The way that, okay, so I'm gonna do it real fast, is we're under a contract, or we fall under the there's different ways MG&E bills bulbs, and what you were talking about is just if the customer owns and the customer maintains them. We fall under the like with us owning it is customer owning it, but MG&E maintaining it.
Okay.
And that maintenance is for every light, we would pay a $1 maintenance fee. And that's for if a bulb is out, they come out and replace it. That's that $1 a month you're paying. So we don't have to own a bucket truck, and we don't have to stock bulbs and things like that.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that. That helps.
Definitely. And what we're trying to do is move it from MG&E owned, MG&E maintained to village owned, MG&E maintained, because then we're not doing the leasing for, $6 high pressure sodium, $11 LED. That's that leasing part, that if we own it, we don't want to lease it. And really the decision is, do we want to lease it or not?
Yeah. Well, let's put something together. I guess it's gonna have to be after October. So let's, if we can, maybe look at starting this in November, if that's okay with both of you. Deb, I will forward you the emails that
Sure.
Michael sent me. I haven't read them yet, but I'll send them to you. And then you can probably get started on the spreadsheet.
And Jay, would you care if I continued to work on this?
No, you are working on it. It's you,
Okay,
Deb, and
well,
I.
But okay, you're like push it, because I have, like, knowing what we want, that means that I can get in touch with Bill, go up, try to find the missing developer documents for the
Yep.
2 neighborhoods. I'd like to get those. If we're gonna, if we're gonna move forward with this, then those should be included, because this initial batch of lights on the count is, we're gonna be moving 104 bulbs at my count from MG&E owned to village owned is what the movement is right now. And that's not counting Bourbon or the Elmwood neighborhood.
Yeah. No, keep going. I'm not saying you have to stop. I'm just saying I'm not gonna pull us together until probably November.
Okay, yeah. 'Cause
I've got a lot of things I gotta write up myself, reports and stuff, and I'm getting a little bit behind. So I don't want to take on any more until spread it out.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, I'll just keep going with what I've been doing. And
And can
And-
you include Deb on all your emails and what you're finding? So she can,
absolute, yeah,
okay,
yeah, as I keep finding things and working, I'll email both of you. Deb, you're gonna have to send me, like, I think I have your email anyway, if it's the same one
Could
from
be.
before. Okay,
all
all
right,
right, yeah, that
good.
sounds great.
All right, we have that. Any future agenda items? Otherwise, we're gonna be bringing some of these things back. I think I'm ready to just hold tight for a while and get caught up.
And Tim, you were talking about removal. If you have areas of removal where you think there's redundancy, if you send that, I mean, I could just keep that as a list,
Sure.
of possible future things as this streetlight roller coaster keeps going.
I'm just looking at the end of our subdivision here. We're on Continental and Hillebrand. It looks like, those subdivisions added streetlights, and then Bourbon Road got done. And they put the streetlights where there were two separate projects, and we see 2 or 3 that are within, short distance. That could be one of those could go or reposition, but there's cost for that too.
No, I absolutely agree. Both of those intersections each intersection has about 450 watts of lighting on it. That's the most in the village at one corner.
Yeah.
I've seen. It's a lot. It's a lot of lighting.
Yeah. And through nobody's fault. I'm sure it's just the way when the developers went in, that's what they did.
Right.
Okay, very good. Any future agenda items? Otherwise, just shoot them to me. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Thank you, everybody. Good meeting. We'll probably keep a lot of the same stuff on next month. Just give you updates.
Okay.
All right, have a
Sounds
good one,
good. See you
guys.
then. All right.